Breathe deep. Imagine your legs more limber in Duluth Trading Double Flex Denim. Envision euphorically squatting for that can of suds, bending for your toolbox in a state of bliss, lunging for your laser level on a whole new level. Relax and allow the flex to fill you with ability. Find your inner flex in Double Flex Denim only at Duluth Trading.
Okay, this is the first for the podcast and possibly any podcast because there are two Greers in one conversation. Hi, I'm Greer and this is the Unfinished Idea podcast, a space where we have honest conversations about the everyday in neurodivergent parenting, being neurodivergent ourselves, and building community so you never have to feel like you're walking this journey alone. Today, I'm chatting with Greer McGuinness, a registered dietitian, autism mom, and researcher who has walked the wild road of parenting while deep diving into gut health and biomedical research. We're talking about parenting through overwhelm, busting myths around diet and autism, where families can actually start, and why self-care matters just as much as interventions. It's real, it's practical, and it is encouraging, especially if you're in that I can't do one more thing kind of season. Hey, I have a weekly newsletter that I think you would love. Every week, I drop a little something in your inbox, updates on the podcast, helpful resources, and even a little moment to ponder that will stick with you. It's real, encouraging, and made with you in mind. So sign up down in the link below in the show notes. So grab your drink and let's dive into today's conversation. Greer, can you share a little bit of your journey as you are raising a son who's on the spectrum, as well as kind of you now are an expert in all things dietitian? I don't know if that's the right word to say, but like all things that. So you mind just sharing a little bit of your journey?
Yeah. So my son was diagnosed when he was 2 years old with autism. He was diagnosed with level 2. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and nor did I understand how parenting a child with special needs was going to be. It was something that I was not prepared for. I have to admit, we had some pretty good support systems. Like our family was a great support system and things like that. And we had some great support systems through early intervention, but you were still feeling like it's still very lonely. And every child is so different. And trying to parent a child who doesn't understand, and, you're like, well, why can't you just eat what I'm giving you? I was a dietitian. I was like, my kid's going to eat tons of fruit and vegetables and be eating meat and be this perfect diet. And I could barely get my kid to eat 5 things. So there was a lot of ups and downs and struggles, I think, personally, for navigating this. Even as a medical professional, I thought I was somewhat prepared, and I was, very not prepared. And it took a lot of self-reflecting and understanding that I am not going to be that perfect parent. It's just not going to happen. And I need to take that out of my head and realize that I am going to be in survival mode. I am going to just do what I need to try my best to help him and just be able to survive this world, and because mentally and physically, one of the things that I see in a lot of my families that I work with, especially around the same age as Keegan was when we first started navigating with this, is just this feeling of defeat. You just feel very defeated as a parent. You feel like you failed. Like it's that mom guilt of everything. You feel like you failed. You're not doing enough. You should be doing more. Why can't I get my kid to do this? This person can get their kid to do this. So, looking back, hindsight is 2020. And I'm like, oh man, I should have given myself a lot more grace during that time. And now that he's 11, I'm like, holy moly, like, I can't believe where we are now. My son is still on the spectrum, and that is perfectly fine by me. This whole journey with my son was never to cure him or reverse his autism. It was purely because he was suffering and he was in pain and he was sick and just not thriving. And now where he's at, it is just, we have our own set of challenges, and we could talk about that too. But, I'm proud of how far he's come and what we've accomplished and everything that he's done. And it's just been one of the wildest roller coaster rides I can ever describe for any parent. And, if they're an autism parent, whether your child is like just newly diagnosed at 2 or now they're 15, it's a wild ride. It really is a wild ride.
Yeah. I can. We're still our son is 6, so we're not quite at that starting phase at 2, but we're definitely not in the double digits yet. So, but yes, I can definitely agree. It's that wild ride. And just that idea of defeat, I think I can really relate to that in our own story of just feeling like I let them down. Like I let my son down, and I've to an extent let my whole family down. And, we were supposed to be, I never thought I would be a perfect parent, but I thought my parenting journey would be very different than what it is. And just, that idea that, it's a wild ride, as you said, and it continues to be. What was a moment in that journey that you kind of were like, okay, something has to change, particularly around his diet? And like you said, you didn't go on this journey to heal his autism, but you just wanted to help. And so was there a specific moment or maybe a few things that kind of...
Yeah, he was about 4.5 and he was still, the progress we were making was like snail's pace. He was having tons of gut issues. His diet was horrific. The kid couldn't poop for like a week at a time. Like it was just like, I was like, I'm like, all right, I can only take so much. My bucket is like overflowing. And I was like so stressed out of just everything going like, can I catch a break? Please. I just need a break. I just need that something that's going to help because I was struggling. And he was about 4.5 years old. I had his baby brother, and that was just like, added stress. And, there was just one time where he hadn't gone to the bathroom in a week. He was crying. He wouldn't eat. He just looked so sick. And we had gone to an endocrinology appointment, and he wasn't really growing. And they did x-rays of his bones and his hands, and he was measuring a whole year behind because he was so nutrient deficient. And the endocrinologist was like, well, can't you just get him to eat more ice cream or something at night for extra calories? And I was like looking at her like, well, 1, I don't want to give him ice cream every night, but 2, like that's not solving my problem. That's not helping me. So that was when I was like, I got to do something else. Like there's got to be something more. And luckily I had some amazing mom friends who, weren't experts in this field, but kind of, dropped some breadcrumbs for me about gut health and detox and stuff. And I always thought that, when I heard it, it was always crazy to me, but these women were actually nurses. So I kind of took a little bit more notice because of the fact that they were medical professionals. And I started doing some digging, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much research on this. Like, this is amazing. Like, this is incredible. So I started doing some stuff based on research, and he just took off. And my husband looked at me and he's like, what did you do? I'm like, I don't know. I just tried some things and it worked. So that was how I kind of started and getting, because it was just out of desperation and frustration where I'd met my limit and quota during that time.
Yeah. You now have your master's, right? Is that right? Yeah. I'm totally going to probably butcher this now. No. You've deep dived into this and just are helping families, as you've mentioned. What are some myths that have come up as you've worked in this space? And kind of how can you bust those myths?
So I went back to get my master's because I felt like I needed to understand research better. And that was one of the biggest myths, was that there was no research, that this stuff didn't exist, that the microbiome doesn't affect autism kids or, comorbidities or symptoms and things like that. And that's why I was like, I needed to go get my master's really. And I have a focus of health and nutrition with epidemiology. And because I wanted to understand science to that level and say, okay, is there really science? Is this fake science? Is this kind of someone paid to publish something and so it's not really real, but the more I researched, the more I was coming across articles holy cannoli, this is legitimate stuff. And I was deep diving into like the microbiome and brain development. And I started understanding more this connection of specific microbial species that impact brain function. Antibiotic destroys I started putting all these puzzle pieces together, and I had like an aha moment, and it was just kind of like, I was able to just put it all in perspective and go, okay, this makes sense now that there is research out there to support all of these things. The hard part is putting it together like a puzzle. A parent's not going to just go and say, I'm going to look up a research study that says that this antibiotic damaged my kid's microbiome and that caused this microbe to overgrow or undergrow, and then that caused their autism. Like it's not so simple. It's not so cut and dry. So there is a lot of research out there. That's one of the biggest myths that, I even thought that there was no research, there was no connection, there was no link, and that was false. That, that doing things like diet and nutrition is not going to help, where I've seen it happen even just in our own case, So for me, it's like, listen, we got to start breaking down this barrier that there's nothing we can do to support our children, and we have to look at our kids as like kids who are in a strange spot. If you think about it, we know from research that kids with autism have higher levels of oxidative stress. They have higher levels of nutrient deficiencies. They have higher level of toxic load and heavy metals. We have the research to show this. Don't also rely on the practitioners that you're seeing to, for whatever reason, also be able to help you and do the digging too, to be able to say, yes, this is true, yet, or no, it's not true.
Yeah. And as you've worked with families, what is something that you kind of, I guess, a starting point? I'm thinking about the mom or the dad who is in that reaching their limit. They want to help their kid, don't have time to put all the puzzle pieces together. Like, what is something that you would kind of say to them as a starting point into this?
Yeah. So one, take a deep breath, because this is a ginormous world. Okay. The biomedical world of autism is probably one of the biggest conundrums I've ever seen. Like there's just so many avenues. I'm not an expert in every single avenue. It's almost impossible to be. I do have a lot of free guides for my families to help get them started, to start just researching, asking questions, maybe finding a practitioner that they should work with. Every kid is so unique and different. So everyone's starting point might be slightly a little different. Mm-hmm. But what I say is, first, let's work on just like what we can control in the environment. Okay. So if it's just switching to, making sure our water is filtrated to decrease the amount of toxins in the water that the child is drinking every single day, let's do that. Let's start working on the diet. We don't have to be perfect, but let's start swapping one thing for one thing if you wanted to. Okay. He likes these muffins, try these muffins, and, go from there. Making sure that your products that you use on your child, isn't, more cleaner products, something less toxic, switch your laundry detergent. I look at it as like, what do you use every single day? Well, I use toothpaste every day. Well, let's make sure that we're giving the best toothpaste that we can. And I know that sounds trivial, but for some kids, some of these things and the decrease of toxic load makes the world of difference. I had a kid who, just by changing laundry detergents, their asthma decreased a lot. And it's something that we never thought about, because it was like they've been using it forever. So they didn't think that it was even connected, but it could be.
Yeah.
Finding a practitioner in your area or working with somebody to do some labs and to start a protocol, like that is sometimes the best situation, especially for an overwhelmed parent. And that's what I did. Even though I was a medical professional, I still sought out a medical professional who had more experience than I did in this area. And I said, okay, sit down and talk to me like I'm like 5. Let's go through this one at a time. And we did some labs. We looked at everything. And then that gave me tools and the information to go, okay, now I could go down this rabbit hole. Now I could go down this rabbit hole. So sometimes it's just getting the foot in the door to just run some basic labs. And like I said, I have a bunch of free guides that people can download, including labs that their pediatrician can run that's covered by insurance. And sometimes that just gives us a starting point. It gives us something to work off of. And that's all we're looking for. We're looking for a foot in the door.
That's really true. And thinking about how every child is unique, what works for one. I mean, I even think about, I know some families who have 2 autistic kids, and what works for one doesn't work for the other.
Yeah.
And it's like so much. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how she does it, but equally I know she does because that's her job. But yeah, just thinking through and taking them individual cases. And like you said, getting, running some labs can be a good starting point. It's not like, and everyone can do that. I mean, I think about, I do that once a year for myself because I just want to make sure I'm healthy.
Yeah.
Hey there, it's Dr. Sanjay Gupta with some exciting news to share. CNN is now streaming. That means you can read, watch, and stream everything in one subscription. You can watch news live 24/7. You can also explore catch-up videos and explainer videos, and you can also watch the library of CNN's originals, including my latest documentary, It Doesn't Have to Hurt. Just go to cnn.com/all-access.
We all love a legendary comeback, and Degree Original Cool Rush is back and better than ever. Cool Rush isn't just a scent, it's a movement, a fan favorite that delivers bold, fresh vibes and all-day sweat protection. Whether you have a man that spends hours in the gym, heads into the office early, or is just trying to stay fresh on a long day, Cool Rush has their back. Head to your local Walmart or Target and grab Degree Cool Rush, the fan favorite scent from the world's #1 antiperspirant brand.
So we've talked about some simple ways, some steps that we can take in starting our gut health for our kids and even for ourselves, really. But what about those who are supporting parents who are raising children with autistic kids? So I'm thinking like maybe the grandparents or the best friends of the parents. Is there anything that they could do to help support people during this kind of journey? Or what can they do?
Honestly, I mean, just check in on your friends and family who have autism kiddos. Just like send out a message and like, hey, I was just thinking about you. Just wanted to reach out and make sure you're okay. See how things are going. Invite us out. We don't get out. I would have killed for somebody to be like, hey, do you want to go grab some drinks? I'd be like, I'll be there in 10 seconds. I think, like I said, this journey is sometimes very lonely, and you feel very isolated. And it's kind of something that we do kind of to ourselves because, we might be ashamed or we might be afraid or, just going through a bunch of different emotions about our children and their behaviors or, Keegan was wild. I just remember I went to a friend's house for a play date. She had a little girl. And I remember I walked in the house and they had a bunch of things that like his level that he could break, like these little candles and stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, please don't, and, it's like for them, their child knows not to do that. My kid was like a bull in a china shop. So, we want to just feel normal. We want to feel supported, and so sometimes I just say, just check in on them and just say, hey, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, like just checking in. How are you? Do you need something? Do you want me to come over and give you a break for a hot minute? It's just, sometimes we just need that breather too.
Yeah, that's so true. I always think about, the friends that I can like who come over. I think about my best friend and how she just comes over and she just plays with my kids. I'm still home. I'm often like cleaning something, but just knowing that she can come and play with my kids just gives such a, like you said, a breather of like, I'm not trying to clean my house and entertain my kids, make sure that they're not breaking anything or they always seem to be fighting with each other. Like there's like 2 little bear cubs that just have to be
same
in each other's space. And I'm like,
same.
You have a massive house. Like, why are you like, but what about thinking about our, like, so again, parents' gut health and kind of, I'm aware that I know for myself, sometimes I am the last person that thinks about me, if that makes sense, and staying healthy. So do you have anything that, could be a good reminder for parents who are kind of focused on their kids and their gut health, but then maybe even for them, or kind of toxins or anything like that.
So I actually just did a reel on this not too long ago because I finally started putting my mental and physical health, first. Because for so long, it was always my kids, my family, my home, my husband, my patients even. I would put them before myself. And I'm like, okay, I really need to start putting myself first a little bit here and making time to say, okay, I need to do this for my mental health. I need to do this for my physical well-being because I'm a better parent when I am like that. And I know I think there's a part of us that feels selfish when we take time for ourselves, but it is important. We're human. We're living this world and we need to be able to be our best versions of ourselves for our children. So for me, it's like, you have to just take, even if it's 10, 15, 20 minutes, like you have to do it. You have to take that time for yourself.
Yeah, I definitely at times feel really guilty, like going for a nap. I remember and I'm like falling asleep watching a film and my husband's home. I don't just go take a nap without another safe adult, but and I just I feel guilty doing that. And I've had to, similar to you this year, I was like, nope, I want to be healthy so that I get to see my kids graduate and my kids get married and, all those things, which there was no health scare, but I just was like, I'm aware that I've not done that for a while and I want to be healthy. And so, taking those times and it's more, for me, it's been more of a mental change of it's okay to go take a nap. Like that's me being healthy.
100%. Yeah.
And me, I think as well is something I've really tried to, our whole house, not just me, but both my husband and I of modeling self-care for ourselves so that our kids then can do that. And as well as, modeling, advocating for ourselves and talking about our emotions. We model all these other things. And I was like, why aren't we modeling self-care as well?
Yeah.
I have 2 more questions, which I feel like I have so many questions, but we'll limit to 2. But then the other one is, I know we talked about kind of that journey and the loneliness and the overwhelm, but what would you want to tell that parent who right now is listening and just is like, I can't do this. I can't add another therapy to my plate. I can't add another thing to my plate. What would you say to them?
Ask for help. So one thing that I didn't do because I thought I needed to be that super mom. And I thought I was like, I have to handle this. It's my kid. And, and it is true. I mean, you're the parent, but to a certain degree, if you need help, ask for help. Don't be shy. You're not letting yourself down. You're not being prideful. It's literally just trying to survive and you can't do it all. You can't. It's impossible to do it all. I had a lot of help from family and things like that. So to me, it's like, push everything aside and just say, if you need help, ask for help and figure out a way to get help. Go through your family, go to a church, an organization. There are a lot of extra help out there that I didn't even know existed until years later.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. Yeah. I have been called super mom several times and I really hate that because I feel like I'm breaking, or I don't feel, I am breaking. It's that. And yet then that's what the world sees. And I'm like, well, if that's what super moms are, then that's not healthy. That's not okay.
It's not healthy. And we have it's like, oh, you handled this so well. It's like, no, I really didn't. You just didn't see the crying at night and the worry, the up at night worrying, because you just see what I want you to see. And it's not the version of me.
Yeah. Yep. I've done that many times. So the last question I always like to ask is, what do you want the world to know about neurodiverse people?
So my son is probably one of the most amazing kids. I don't want to cry. He's amazing. Life is going to be hard. He still struggles in certain areas, but he hears and understands everything. So when the world is not being kind, he knows it and he hears it. And, I have people that are like, I didn't even know that your child was on the spectrum. That's great. He is, but understand that it's not something that you can always see, and that how you are as a person and how you are around them will impact them. And so whether if my son is or isn't on the spectrum, if you can tell or can't tell, when he hears other people making comments. He understands, he hears it, he feels that. And I think for some, that's so, for him, that's just a really tough thing that he's going to have to learn how to deal with, and, kind of grow a pretty thick skin in this world today, unfortunately. But, compassion goes a very long way, and just being nice and going out of your way to just be nice to somebody for no reason is really where we see our kids thrive, and just, good role models. So it's a tough world, and, I'm so proud of him, but I understand how so many people struggle in this aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think how much my son can take in, and it's always way more than I think, good or bad. Like he's absorbing so much of the world, and that's, typical and neurotypical kids. But I think neurotypical kids, at least mine, just sees so much of the world, but just slightly differently. And so it's beautiful. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. He has a math brain, and he sees patterns in everything. He can, I always kind of joke his party trick is that you can show him a page like of words, of a book, and he'll know within 5 seconds how many words are on that page.
That's crazy.
And he just sees the patterns, and he sees all of that. And it's just amazing. And I think if he can see all of that in 5 seconds, like what else can he see in 5 seconds? And what else is he taking in? And like you say, it can be beautiful, but it can be hard. And it's trying to show people that both and
the good and the bad. Yeah. It's tough. And, that's why I share everything I can about our journey, the good, bad, and the ugly, because it is good, bad, and ugly. It just really is. So,
yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today, and for sharing, kind of wider as well, all that you do share. And I'm very grateful that you are a voice in this world, and sharing. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
One thing I'm taking away from today's conversation is how small intentional changes can make a meaningful difference over time. Whether it's supporting health, creating safer environments, or simply trying something new, progress starts with one step. And today's vocab moment is biomedical interventions, a very broad term used to describe medical, nutritional, or environmental strategies that aim to support autistic individuals' overall health and functioning. This can include gut health, dietary changes, and even having some lab testing. For example, Greer talked about starting with simple changes like filtering water or switching out household products, small steps that build over time. Did you know we have a weekly newsletter? Every week, I drop a little something into your inbox, updates on the podcast, helpful resources, and a point to ponder on that will stick with you. It's real, encouraging, and made with you in mind. You can sign up by using the link below. Go out there, keep the conversation going, and we'll see you here next week.